You're listening to Mom and Doc Talk, where we talk all things healing pans and pandas with an emphasis on homeopathy.
Hi, everybody. I just want to give you a heads up that there's a little bit of triggering things that we talk about here. Not too much, but one of our guests does talk about some specific experiences of symptoms when they were experiencing PANS and PANDAS, and there is a brief mention of suicidal ideation toward the end. If that's something that's really triggering for you, go ahead and skip this one. But there's a lot of really great stuff, and like I said, it's really a brief mention. So I'm hopeful that it will be worthwhile to listen to because of the just the depths and the vulnerability of the personal experience that this young woman shares with us in the episode. So hopefully you'll get a lot of great value from listening. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Mom and Doc Talk. We are joined today by a magnificent mom and daughter duo who have graced us with their story in our Facebook group previously, and they were so generous to be willing to come and share their amazing story with you guys here on our podcast. So welcome, Danielle and Maddie. We're so excited to have you guys.
We're excited to be here, and thank you for having us.
Yes,
So let me tell you just a little bit about them really quick, and then I'll let you tell them about, or tell you guys about themselves. So Madison is 16 and she's in the 10th grade. She's been homeschooled since 3rd grade. Her favorite subject this year is driver's ed. Go figure. She can't wait to get her driver's license and a car. She plans to go to college, become a therapist, and explore her interests in modeling. She loves animals and has 3 dogs, a rabbit, and 9 parrots. Her newest hobby is learning how to care for and ride horses, and she loves going to Broadway plays. She was diagnosed with PANDAS at age 10, but has experienced symptoms since birth. She's been using homeopathy for more than 3 years. And her mother, Danielle, is the mom of a blended family of 7 kids, a master's prepared registered nurse. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Okay. And a lifelong learner. Like her daughter Madison, she loves animals and works to help animals in need whenever possible. Her hobbies include spending time with family and friends, reading, listening to live music, and going to plays. When her daughter developed seizures, anaphylaxis, and intense neuropsychiatric symptoms at age 10, she sought help from numerous physicians over several years. With no answers or support from conventional medicine, she turned to homeopathy. This was the turning point in her daughter's healing and their lives. Danielle is passionate about holistic wellness, naturopathic remedies, and helping other families find hope on their healing journeys. So it's no wonder that you guys are willing to show up and have this conversation with us. Thank you both so much. I got to ask Maddie, what kind of car do you want? What's your dream car?
I want a Jeep Renegade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that looks like. I'm so not a car person, but I was when I was your age. I had a specific thing I wanted in a specific color. Well, I hope that you're able to make it happen.
Me too. Me too.
All right. So obviously I just read a little bit about you from your bios, but why don't you guys just tell us a little bit more about yourselves? Like, who are you? What makes you tick? And like, tell us about yourselves.
You want to go first?
You go first.
Okay, I'll go first. Well, like you guys said, my name's Danielle. I've been a nurse for 15 years. I work in labor and delivery. I have become very passionate about functional wellness since being on this journey with Madison. So I spend a lot of time doing a lot of research and learning all kinds of new things. I enjoy animals too. I'd probably adopt every animal that needed a home if I didn't have my husband to stop me. And I'm always learning new things, and I enjoy listening to live music. Maddie and I go to tons of plays with some of my other daughters, so we love Broadway shows. I think
What's
Maddie
your favorite?
I think so far I liked Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
And Mean Girls was kind of fun. We just went and saw one of our friends in a production of Mean Girls, and that was really good. So we also like to support the local youth theater as well, because they grow up to be those wonderful Broadway actors.
Right. Yeah.
And then I spend all the rest of my time taking care of my family. I have a couple special needs children. So I believe my oldest son has PANDAS, but he doesn't want to accept that. So he's not he hasn't continued on his homeopathy journey, but I'm hoping that one day he'll come around.
Yeah.
And so just, navigating life and kids and work, and, someday I want to not work in the hospital and, go on to maybe do more work with individual families and things, but on a journey. But It's about me.
I don't know what to say. I don't feel like I have a lot of things that I do in life just because I do struggle with pandas, so it does make life a little harder. But I I love to learn.
Mhm.
Like maybe not math. I don't like math at all, but I do love to learn different things, especially about like things that I like. Like something that I know that like really draws me in is like history.
Mm.
Like Henry VIII's wives. I love that type of history. I love it very much.
The drama.
The drama
Yeah.
and just the craziness. I love it.
Yeah, we went to see that play as well, huh? It was
Yes.
good.
I heard it was amazing.
It
That was
so
my
good.
favorite. It was
Yeah.
my favorite.
Yeah.
I like to watch like thrillers type movies and shows with my mom. It's my favorite thing. We're currently watching a show called Bones,
Mhm.
which I love very much. It really screams me, kind
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
I like to draw. I don't do it very much. I should do it more. My favorite thing to do is probably just be with my dogs. I live for them, to be honest.
Yeah.
They're my babies. I love them very much. I'm definitely really getting into this horse thing. It's very exciting because I've always wanted a horse
Mhm.
and I've always wanted to have like a horse and ride a horse and all of this stuff. So it's very exciting to be able to be doing this right now.
Tell them about our baby horse.
We rescued a baby horse. We helped our friend rescue a baby horse from a slaughterhouse.
Oh my
He's
gosh.
he's doing so well. He's playful, he's healing, and it's very exciting.
He's only 6 weeks old. He was a little orphan.
Oh my goodness.
So we've taken up trying to help her to care for him. And it's been exciting to watch his journey of healing as well, because,
Yeah.
we can relate.
Well, it sounds like you guys are the right people to do it with the menagerie or zoo or whatever that you have at your house. And I'm just going to say there's a very good chance for our listeners that you are going to hear one of many dogs at some point in the background. So, because I think every single one of us, I got one of my two dogs hanging out here with me, the other one's downstairs. And if one starts barking, the other's going to start barking. I'm sure you guys all have that same experience, right? Well, as you said, it sounds like you actually do quite a lot in spite of you saying that you don't do much because you have PANS. But let's go ahead and dive in and talk about that because it has been a really central focus of your life for several years now. So yeah, let's just dive in. Tell us about how PANS showed up in your life.
I was 10 and I was at my grandma and grandpa's and I will say this till the day I die. I had my dog with me, Roxy, and she kind of notified my parents and they realized that I was laying on the floor and I wasn't moving really. So they came over to me and I was blue. I had a grand mal seizure. They had to call the ambulance and I remember waking up to my mom kind of like doing compressions on me, trying to like get airflow back. But then I remember passing out again and waking up as they were putting me into the ambulance and then going back. That's all I remember from that day until kind of like I was already better and I was in the hospital bed and it was weird because it felt like everything was normal and I didn't really understand what was going on. I just knew something happened, but I didn't know why. And it was very frustrating because for a long time, people would just tell me that it was in my head and that I it was all anxiety, I was being crazy. They even tried to convince my mom to put me and to admit me into the psych ward on the hospital floor. Luckily, my mom, believed in me and she helped me, and I'm very grateful for that because without her, I probably would not be here.
Thank you. So that was a big turning point in our lives, but actually looking back at Maddie's life prior to that, we had a lot of issues growing up. She was born septic at birth, was a C-section baby. We think she may have had cytomegalovirus because she tested for antibodies at 5 weeks when she was readmitted again for failure to thrive. She was always very sensory overloaded, always getting pneumonia, always getting some ear infection, something happening all the time. When she was 3, she got meningitis and was hospitalized for 2 weeks. Then we moved to a new house that we found out had mold about 9 months after we lived there. And actually at that point she had her first 2 seizures, but we were told they were febrile seizures. So we didn't really think much about it at the time. And we moved out of the house and like kind of tried to move on with our life. But then she started struggling really bad with like anxiety and school refusal and massive meltdowns. And like I said, the sensory stuff was just overwhelming. She couldn't wear certain clothes, couldn't feel certain things.
I think the sensory thing was an always thing, like that stuck with me since I was little, just because I remember having times where like we were at a lavender festival and I was yelling and screaming and because I was like overwhelmed by the sensory stuff. And I think that was something that I've struggled with growing up very like often, and it was pretty persistent too.
And I say about 3rd grade, we had tons of school refusal and it was like meltdowns in the car. I couldn't get her out of the car. She struggled a lot at school, couldn't focus, and eventually just decided to take her out and do homeschool at that point because of the issues that she was having. But about that time we entered a homeschool community, and I really believe this was like God putting somebody in my path at the time to kind of tell me about PANS and PANDAS because I had no idea what it was. And prior to that, I had taken Maddie to like a psychologist and therapy, trying to figure out what was, going on. My oldest son had been diagnosed as a child with bipolar, ADHD, anxiety, all the things you could throw, OCD, anything you can throw at him. He had the diagnosis and he struggled his whole life. So at that point, I was just thinking, oh, it's mental health. We have a mental health problem, so I was trying to fix it from the mental health perspective. They thought Maddie could possibly have autism. So I had taken her for testing for autism. And a girl in our group had said, hey, have you ever heard of PANDAS or PANS? And, my daughter had it. And I can see some of the behaviors with Madison because she was having meltdowns and having a hard time getting along with other peers and things. But I kind of dismissed it. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I've never heard of it, but we already have these diagnoses. And, I didn't really follow up at that point. And that was, my bad. I guess I probably should have taken it more serious. But so then that's when Maddie had her first seizure at 10. They put her on medication and she did well for about 10 months. But then I honestly believe she got COVID in February of 2020. Because she started having multiple seizures, was having like hallucinations, ended up getting admitted to the hospital and having pneumonia and vomiting, diarrhea, just ran like we didn't know what COVID was it then, but I think that's what really sent her off into the deep end of PANDAS at that point. So that's kind of where our journey began. At that point, she started having multiple seizures, like 2 or 3 a day. And this went on for years. We saw multiple doctors. I don't know how much you want me to keep talking about that journey, but
well, I mean, we definitely want to hear about all of the things that have you guys have gone through, because this is your story. I would love to hear, because you guys have a really complex case, right? So from birth, it started off just really complex, and it sounds like seizures might have been the thing that really tipped you over to this really needs attention, even more attention or maybe different attention, but things were kind of up and down already before that really big seizure when you were 10. So yeah, if you guys wouldn't mind sharing more with us about the specific symptoms that you had, and if there's anything that we need to put a trigger warning on this episode for, we will. If you want to share anything that's any specifics, we don't shy away from that here because there's people who need to hear themselves and other people. And yeah, any treatments that you tried and how all that went. Yeah, just walk us through it.
I'm going to talk about what you remember first, and then I'll talk about what I remember.
Sure.
Okay.
With the seizures, I know a lot of people have different types of seizures, but with mine, I would kind of be out of it, but like at the same time, I could hear everything that was going on around me. And it was scary because like I couldn't like just say like, hey, I'm okay, or I can't be like, Mom, what's happening? I'm literally stuck here, like frozen, and I can't speak, I can't say anything, I can't look around. I'm just stuck there. And that's what my seizures felt like. And after my seizures, for some time, I wouldn't be able to talk or, really do anything. Um, it was very stressful because I couldn't talk, I couldn't speak, I couldn't be like, hey, I'm in pain, or hey, I'm fine, or hey, I need to go to the bathroom. It was nothing. I could not speak. And it was terrifying. And everyone, it was also way more terrifying because everyone would put like that saying it's all in my head, there was nothing wrong with me. And that was even scarier because sometimes I would think like, is it all in my head and am I the problem? And that's a terrifying thought just because it's just something that's happening and you don't know why. I would get tics where I would just randomly say things, couldn't control my movements or anything. I would just, pass out of nowhere. Um, I had seizures more than once a week, maybe like
So
every day. And psychosis, I would get a lot of psychosis from my seizures and stuff like that, which was actually really bad, like insanely bad. I remember some of it. Um, like I had a bunk bed type of thing, like a loft bed,
Mhm.
and I threatened to jump off of it one time. Like
Mhm.
it was very bad psychosis. I I was more than like, out of it. I was terrified. It wasn't just the psychosis that controlled me. I feel like it was my fear as well. Because in psychosis, I would yell at my mom saying, call 911. I don't feel good. I had a seizure. And and I felt like she wasn't doing anything about it because she knew that, like, if we went to the hospital, they wouldn't do anything. And it was terrifying, really. I was scared because I was
Yeah.
young and I didn't know what was going on. I was
Oh,
just
of
really
course.
terrified.
and then you developed
And
anaphylaxis.
then I developed all of these allergy problems that I never had before, which made everything so much more scary and way more like hard to deal with, especially like because I had an anaphylactic shock thing where I actually like my throat was closing, my even my eardrums were closing, and it was terrifying. And I think I remember that even more vaguely because it happened on my birthday, which was
Oh,
not the best thing ever, but
oh,
I can't complain because I'm alive now.
right.
I'm very grateful for. But I can see like how difficult pandas can be just because I've gone through it. And just like all the food changes, all of the health problems, it's terrifying and difficult, but it's I'm happy just because I'm alive and I know that I'm going to be able to have like my own family in the future, and that's something I can't wait for. That's something I've always wanted since I was a little girl,
Mhm.
and being able to be here and being able to most likely do that is something that makes me very happy, and
Yeah.
that's why I'm very happy to be here.
So, Maddie, I have a quick question for you, if you don't mind. You said that you were experiencing psychosis. What does that mean to you?
I was just kind of out of it. I couldn't really control myself. I was psychotic. I was screaming at the top of my lungs, throwing things.
Mhm.
And afterwards, I wouldn't remember really at all.
Mhm.
And I remember my mom saying that I even called 911 once,
Mhm.
telling them my mom isn't taking me to the hospital and that I'm having seizures and that she's not helping me. And I don't remember this at all, like at all. It was kind of like I blacked out and
Mhm.
into like this crazy rage that I couldn't control.
Okay.
And I still to this day really don't remember it, but I remember my mom talking about it.
Okay. So you're not necessarily having like hallucinations or delusions in those periods. You're just like not connected to your body and um or even connected to what you're doing and having a lot of intense rage is what it sounds like, is what you meant by psychosis.
No, but
Okay.
she was experiencing hallucinations, but she doesn't remember.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember them. Okay.
Yeah, so she was like seeing things, hearing things. Yeah, she did have that, and she would become extremely violent, and try to like climb out the windows, jump off the beds, throw things. We had to put our knives away so she wouldn't stab us. Like,
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
well, we just so that she wouldn't grab something and then something happened and we would, regret it later. So we were very, we just didn't know what was going to happen next, basically.
I'd like to clarify, I would have never stabbed my parents or anyone.
Right. Well, that's the thing that's really tough with kids with PANS, right? Because the reality is we know and you know that you, not inflamed and in control of your body, would never do that. And in those moments where you are not connected to your body, sometimes kids do things that are very different than the way that they would actually want to behave, right? So I'm sure that you would never have intentionally, and thank goodness you never did. And it's understandable that somebody might be scared in those moments when they're just not sure because they're seeing that you're not there, even though your body is there, right?
Yeah, and I think before we found homeopathy, that there was a time where even though I knew something was wrong, I didn't know what else to do. And I almost thought that she may have to go into inpatient or something because we just couldn't, make it through these meltdowns and psychotic periods that she was having. And I never did go that route because I knew she wouldn't get the treatment that she needed there, and it might be more traumatic than, so we did what we could here. Like I just say, thank God we found homeopathy because that was our turning point. But she had a lot of OCD in terms of, and I never recognized it as it was happening, that it was an OCD behavior. Because, when you think OCD, you're like, oh, I have to wash my hands or count or do all these, typical OCD behaviors. But she was obsessed with animals, like, and it was all she could think about. And there came a point where it was just like we kind of had to give in to what was going on at the time in order to survive the day, because I see a lot of parents are like, well, what about, what's discipline and what do I need to correct versus what is PANS and what is PANDAS? And there comes a point where you're just trying to survive the day. And if you have to give in, you just have to give it in for that point and pray that once you're out of the craziness of what's happening, that, you can fix whatever's going on. So at one point we had a petting zoo in our house. We had like 3 hamsters, 2 guinea pigs, 2 rabbits, a bearded dragon, a leopard gecko, a tortoise, 3 dogs, 2 birds, like, because every time she would get in one of these states, she was like, and every time she would have to go to the hospital, she needed to have like another animal to keep her, like, that was going to replace whatever she was missing or whatever. So she had this like obsession with animals. But I am happy to say that once we came out of that period of our life, that we have dwindled down to only the animals that we currently have.
Which is still a lot.
Yeah, which is a lot,
but not by like want and stuff. Like, we did not want 9 birds. We had 4 birds, and then 2 of them decided to have babies, and then we just couldn't. We got attached to the babies, and we couldn't get rid of them.
So like what I didn't think was like typical OCD, it came out in other ways, and then we would start to see patterns, like when she would have her seizures, she would like want to eat something. She like really was in a McDonald's French fries. So we'd have to like run down and get McDonald's French fries just so that she would, like, and we didn't know about diet and stuff at that point, just like she would calm down. And then I could always tell if she would like start shoving the fries in her mouth, okay, she's going to enter psychosis. Like there were triggers that I could see were starting to happen. So as time went on, I got more in tune with like her behaviors and what things were doing. And our very first year of dealing with seizures and anaphylaxis, we had like 20 ER visits and 5 hospitalizations. Whew. And yeah, it was crazy. And I was afraid at that time people were going to be like reporting me to like CPS or something. Cause a lot of times they don't care in the ER, they don't listen. They don't do anything to help. It finally gets to a point where it's like, it's not even worth going, but you're so afraid that what if this is the seizure that turns into the grand mal that turns into the not breathing, you know what I mean? So it was a lot of trauma and stress in our family. And at the very beginning, my husband, when Maddie said that people were telling her it was in her head, I would go through periods where I knew something was wrong, but then nothing would help. And so I would start to think, well, maybe it is like psychological and it's not, anything, or maybe I am making this problem worse by not, doing more behavior corrections or whatever, and my husband was very much, on like, I don't think he understood as much until we got our specific blood work in the very beginning that showed she had like all of these antibodies to all of these different viruses and bacterias and strep and everything. And like, look, this is what the body's fighting. And at that point, it was kind of like he could see that it wasn't a willful thing that was happening, with Maddie, because I would even tell the people at the hospital, like, she doesn't act like this when she's not having a seizure or when she's not having an episode, but nobody would believe me, because then they would actually start putting things in the chart, like we were uncooperative, we didn't listen, we were just seeking attention, and I was just, and so that was extremely frustrating, when things like that were happening to us, but we just kept moving forward. And at some point, I started following homeopathy, the group. And because we had been to multiple doctors, her seizures weren't getting any better. At that point, they were wanting to put in I forgot what it's called now, but the device that stimulates the internal stimulation that would like knock her back into, if she started having a seizure. So they wanted to do that. We had even made an appointment with the surgeon at that point because it was so bad. But something just kept telling me I wasn't 100, and we were seeing a well-renowned known PANS doctor from Arizona at the time. And although she was good at diagnosing and running tests, she wasn't great at follow-up, and her staff we could never get through. So I felt like I was just kind of drowning at that point. We were seeing a neurologist here for seizures, and at some point he was just like, she's too complicated, I can't help you. And so he just kind of dismissed us. We didn't have anybody to help.
Where are you supposed to go if the person who's supposed to be the expert in it says you're too complicated?
Yeah. So, we were just kind of lingering out there. And so I started doing more and more research myself. And I had been lurking in the homeopathy. And at that point, we had tried antibiotics, all kinds of supplements, some diet changes. We did actually make some diet changes while we were on homeopathy that did really help. I found a connection between seizures and celiac, and my daughter has celiac, my oldest one. So I knew that was a thing in our family. And I react to gluten as well. So we went on a gluten-free diet, and she went down in seizures to like 1 a week instead of 2 or 3 a day. And then we did some allergy testing and found out she was allergic to corn. And that was great. When we took that out, she stopped having reactions, and citric acid is a big one for her. So we just found like some of these connections that we explored, but homeopathy was our saving grace, because it wasn't until we started that we started to get symptom control and like somewhat of a normal life, like our life was out of control, crazy. I mean, she would lock herself in the car for hours and kick and scream, and and my husband would be like, what is going on? And I'd be like, she's fine, we're gonna be fine, everything's fine. I think I'm the ultimate optimist. I might be toxic optimist sometimes, because I'm just like, it's gonna be fine, everything's great,
What else are you gonna tell yourself?
Yeah. So that was like my coping, was just like, it's gonna be fine, we're gonna be okay. And so I knew from following the group for a while and just reading posts and from reactions that we'd had to supplements and medications. And let me tell you, when we started homeopathy, she was on like 8 different medications, stuff for psychosis, stuff for seizures, stuff for anxiety, stuff for sleep, like she never slept. Sleeping was bad for her. I mean, she used to,
I still really don't.
she doesn't sleep very well still, but we have a few things we're still working on, but sleep is kind of one of them. But she used to wet the bed like almost every night. And but that was the first thing that homeopathy cured.
I want to take us a little bit backwards. You had so much going on. Talk to us about how that impacted your life. All of these things that you were experiencing, these difficult things. How was that for you?
It wasn't only terrifying, but really depressing, just because all of these things that I did before with my friends and people that I consider, like my family, because we were so close, they all changed. I couldn't have sleepovers anymore. I couldn't hang out with my friends. I couldn't do anything. And that really, made me really depressed. I mean, I felt like I was going insane. I had to wear pull-ups at an older age, and that made me feel, you know, like a child. I didn't like it. It made me depressed. It made me feel like, I don't know how to like say how it made me feel, but it did not make me feel, okay. And it really like frustrated me. It made me feel weird. It was a terrible feeling. That's all I can remember. I can't remember how to like exactly what I felt, but I know that it made me feel, terrible. And honestly, I didn't get my life back for a while after that. Not just because like, I mean, I was getting better, but it was more of fear that me and my mom had, that if I went out and I did this, I go and hang out with my friends, that I would have a seizure and no one would know how to take care of me. And then I would, I wouldn't make it because there was no one there who knew how to take care of me. And that was definitely something that also affected our life very much, is the fear of anything happening, even if we knew that I was okay.
What about you, Danielle? How did it affect your life?
Very similar to Madison's. We weren't able to really go out, do anything. We didn't have time. Really, it took over our entire life. Yeah, so it took over our whole life. Everything was about, just getting through the day, or getting through, not even the day, getting through the moment. And things may be fine 1 minute and the next minute it's not. I missed a ton of work. I actually had to take some time off for my own stress from my job because I was constantly getting called to come home. Or luckily my son lives with us and he was able to take care of Maddie when I wasn't home, but we never knew when the next seizure might come. It seemed to have like a cycle kind of effect. So I knew that if I went to work like early and got off before 5, like it usually was okay. I would be home for the seizure because we had a lot of issues that happened at night. It was, I don't know, circadian rhythm kind of weird stuff that happened. But my husband and I never got to go out and do anything. We were always at home with Maddie. It expected all of the kids because we were just one big tribe trying to help her through, and sometimes like maybe what I was doing wasn't helpful. So maybe my daughter would help her, or, my son could get through to her, or, even my husband could, help her get through what she was going through. So really our entire life focused on just Madison, and we did lose a lot of friends and things because we weren't able to go out and do things. So we lost a lot of people who would invite us to do things. And then we would always have to say, oh no, sorry, Maddie's not feeling well, or, today's not a good day. And so we stopped getting invited to things. And, but we do have, I have to say, we have a couple of sets of friends that stood by us. And even Maddie had some good friends that she's been friends with since she was like 2 or 3, and that have stayed by her this whole time, even through all of the meltdowns and seizures and things. So yeah, but basically everything focused around, Maddie, and was she going to be okay today, and
Tomorrow.
and tomorrow, and what we were going to do,
I it just comes to mind really quickly that I wanted to make sure I mention, as you were so affected by so many things, and especially like all the ER visits and all the hospital visits, and as you said, like things that were put in your charts and ways that doctors started to look at you and things like that they were saying. You're very lucky that you weren't affected even more with like other things coming from the outside. And I just wanted to mention to anybody who might be listening to this as their first episode that they're listening to, that we have an episode with Beth Allison Maloney that we'll put a link to in the show notes about making sure that you protect yourself when you have to go to the hospital, and things to do to make sure that if you start to see some of the stuff that you guys just described experiencing in the hospital, ways that you can really make sure you're protecting yourself and your child.
I do have to say that I did get lucky because I have a friend who's a pediatrician that I work with at work, and I got him. He believes in PANDAS, and he became my ally kind of towards the end of our hospitalizations and things. And so I now turn to him if I do need to go to the hospital or something. So that's, been amazing on our part. But one of the interesting things, for 3 of the hospitalizations that we had for seizures where she was there for a week or more, were related to her losing teeth. Her teeth fell out in the hospital. It had to do with the loose tooth. It was so interesting. And so I had actually talked to like the pediatrician and said, hey, do you think that this could be related? Because, you know, how babies sometimes get fevers and have seizures when they're teething or whatever,
Mhm.
you know, and he just totally didn't think that that was a thing. But it's interesting to see how all of the tooth stories, you know, in the group about the teeth thing and how everything's related. But it happened to us 3 months in a row.
Yeah.
And also another thing that we noticed is it became really bad around her symptoms were really bad around her period.
Mhm.
And so navigating that, but as she's been on homeopathy, things have mellowed out and it doesn't really affect her like it used to.
Not at all, no.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really excited to hear about like your homeopathy journey and all of that. But before we get there, I just have one more question for you, Maddie. As you shared with us about like your symptoms, you've said several times, I didn't remember this. I didn't know that this happened. I was told about this afterwards. I just want to know, like, how does that affect you to like hear about these things that you weren't really present for?
It feels weird, and it's kind of like I feel like embarrassed because of what happened, because I would have never done that, but I had no control over what I was doing.
Yeah.
So it's just very like embarrassing to hear the stories because I'm like, well, that's really just embarrassing. Like, why would I do that? It's crazy to hear, honestly.
Yeah.
It's like we're talking about a whole nother person and I don't even know who the person is.
Right. Yeah. That would be disorienting to say the very least.
Yeah.
Let's shift into talking about the fun stuff, the thing that we all love. Tell us about how homeopathy kind of first showed up. How did you learn about homeopathy?
Facebook, yeah. I was just searching for answers. I was a lurker probably for a good year in the group, just kind of watching and listening and seeing what was going on, reading all kinds of things. I kind of started to mention this earlier. I knew Maddie was super sensitive to things. And so as I started to think more about homeopathy, like I went into our first appointment thinking she's really sensitive. We need to water dose. Like I was already like, I know this is how it's got to be, you know, like
Had it figured out.
yeah, I had it all figured out, you know. And so no, I didn't have everything, but I kind of knew, like, just kind of like I read so many posts and I tried to educate myself so much. And you know, we, like I said, we tried the traditional route of antibiotics, and she herxed really bad, so that didn't help us. And supplements were like, I think at one time they wanted her to take like 20 supplements a day. It was ridiculous. So I would spend nights just trying to put all the little supplements in the capsules and make sure that she would take them, and nothing really made any difference. And so finally I just got to the point where I was like, we need to do something, and I need to have faith that this is what it is and this is what's going to help us. And it was kind of our last resort. And I'm very, if I have one regret, it was that it wasn't my first thought and my first resort, because we could have maybe saved a good 3 years of our journey that was very traumatic. So if I had to tell parents one thing, I would say, you know, if you're on the fence, go for it and do it, the sooner the better. But that's kind of how we came. Just like I said, I was that group lurker and I read and learned, I guess I'm my learning. And then I just decided one day to take the leap.
Yeah. Tell us about how your healing journey's been. What's it been like for you guys?
Well, obviously I am still in my healing journey. Right now we're just kind of focusing on my gut more than anything because that's where my healing journey is right now. But it was quite crazy in the past. We had, you know, no idea what was going on. And so when we were trying all these different things, it kind of fluctuated. Is that how you say that? Fluctuated because like we tried this, and then if that wouldn't work, we would have to try this. It was crazy because I was at one point on like a lot of medications and I gained a lot of weight because of the medications. And then when I got off of those medications, the weight that I lost was insane. And honestly, I think that those medications probably didn't help my health or my gut or anything too much because of how much weight I was gaining. Um, all I
These are
can
conventional meds that you were talking about, right?
Yes,
Not
these are like
homeopathic.
regular medications.
Yeah.
And I don't think that those helped me very much, to be honest, because I feel like they just caused more problems for me in the future that I have to deal with now. I do think that the natural remedies have definitely helped my healing in so many ways. I'm definitely a very natural person now. I trust in the natural healing and stuff like that. And that's, if I can do something that's more natural than not, I would want to.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think that all of this natural healing has honestly just helped me for the long run and for in general.
So our very first appointment, can I say who our doctor is?
Sure.
Okay, so Dr. Bartel is our doctor. She's amazing. And we had our very first appointment with her, and we got prescribed we didn't get our remedy right away. So the next, my follow-up appointment, actually for some reason, Dr. Bartel couldn't make our follow-up appointment. So we had to like a stand-in practitioner that came in just for that one, thing that we had. So we tried our very first remedy, but she kind of had an aggravation, a pretty sizable aggravation at the beginning. And so then by the next time we saw Dr. Bartel, we really dialed it back, and we're in the water dosing and the very minute amounts and, of the remedy. And Dr. Bartel was just spot on with the remedy that she chose. And Maddie has been on the same remedy for our entire journey through, which is amazing from what I hear.
Yeah.
That doesn't really happen
That's
a lot
rare.
of time. So she's been on the same remedy. We've just adjust, the dosage and the way we give it throughout the time. And just to see that one for so many times she was on a water dose that was like a half a cup by a half a cup by a half a cup by a drop, and you're like, wow, just to see that one drop can make this amazing change, right? And so pretty much we've just done I think our journey's gone very well. I mean, we saw changes right away. Like I said, the bedwetting pretty much stopped right away. The things we've struggled with still are a little bit of anxiety, and her energy level is very low still. We have some energy issues, and we still struggle with school stuff. Like if it's not something she enjoys and loves, it's not something she's really interested in. So
That's not completely true.
okay.
Okay. With PANDAS, it set me back a few years. So sometimes I have to relearn things, but I think I know everything about it. And well, I know it. And I think it just frustrates me, and that I don't want to do it at all because I already know what it's doing it, and then I have to learn it all over again. And it's just very frustrating. That's really the reason I get frustrated with school, is because sometimes I have to do things that I've already done. And I'm telling people I know how to do this. I've done this before. And it just, sometimes I can't even do it, even though I know how to do it. And it's just very frustrating. And it just makes me want to give up. And that's really what it is. It's not that I hate the schoolwork. I know I need to get the schoolwork done. I know that I need that. And I know I need the education. It's just a very stressful and irritating process.
Yeah, you're right. Because we see this happen with a lot of people that, so when PANDAS, between all of the stuff that you're experiencing with it itself, it also has its own cognitive regression, in addition to things. So it makes it harder for your brain to work. It makes it harder to be able to do school because of all the symptoms that you're dealing with. And with homeopathy, we do see people catch up, but you're right. Sometimes you have to go back to some of the things that you've done before that you lost in the regression. And the good news is that generally people, when they start to catch up, they typically catch up pretty quickly. It doesn't necessarily make it any less frustrating to be like, I know I've done this before and I don't want to have to do it again because I know it, but accessing it isn't as easy as you want it to be.
I feel like also I have a struggle with communication. So I want to scream at this person, I know this, I've done this before, but I feel like I'm telling them this, but they don't listen, and it makes me just want to scream. And at the same time, I'm not actually telling this person that. And I go around it. I don't tell this person. And I think it's more of I don't know if it's PANDAS or what, but I think it's more of a personal problem.
Yeah.
Where I just don't I don't talk to people. So it makes everything way worse because I don't know how to communicate with people, and I don't like to communicate with people, especially when I'm feeling a certain way. Honestly, I don't like to talk to people about my problems, and I think that's also a big problem I have, that I'm so enclosed and I don't want to share anything
Right.
I think that causes me more problems.
Well, and you're right. There are certain things that are going to be just about how you are as a
Yeah.
person, and certain things that are not necessarily something that homeopathy is going to change. And we all have to find our own personal motivations for overcoming things that are feeling like uncomfortable obstacles for us. Um, I'd love to hear a little bit more, whatever else you guys want to share about your journey. But I think the thing that's really important to just say out loud for anybody who might not have connected the two, because we sort of moved past really quickly, that you've been on multiple different potencies
Mhm.
of a single remedy. Nothing happened all at once, right? It was like the same remedy gradually helped nudge your body to heal little by little. The same remedy that didn't take care of a symptom on the first potency or the second potency or the third potency might have taken care of it by the fourth potency. And then
Yes.
another symptom by like the seventh potency or whatever, where you were just constantly making progress. So even there's people I'm sure who've listened to this who are like, my doctor, Jody can probably tell you, my doctor's making me stay on this remedy that I don't think, like, I want this other symptom to be gone. And we're like, just be patient. It sounds like patience has paid off for you guys.
Yes, very much. I think that when you're going through something, you just want it to be over. So when things don't work, it kind of turns into this, well, it's not going to work. It's not going to work
Mhm.
because nothing has worked. And people don't want to be patient just because they're so like over all of this that's taking
Yep.
over their life. And I completely understand that because, I've had to be patient for so long and I'm a very impatient person. I hate to be patient, but in the end of the at the end of the day, being patient has helped me a lot with homeopathy and just my health in general, and I couldn't be more grateful.
Yeah.
And I have to say that I was just going to say that she articulates very well now, but in the beginning she wasn't able to. And I actually attribute that to the homeopathy too. We had an assessment in the beginning and they were like, she's just out of touch with like how she feels or can't tell you what she thinks or what she's feeling or whatever. And as we've seen the change, she's come more out of her shell and been able to express those things. And I just remember, and I don't know if people have really thought about this, but when she really started healing, she had a little bit of not a regression period, but where she went back to childhood times of things that she missed as a child. And she was very much into like, I want to play with my Bratz dolls that I never played with when I was 5 because, everything was going on and whatever. And so we've gone back through to see some of the childhood, things kind of return and then move forward. But these days she's just your typical teenager. And actually, one thing I do find that's a little bit maybe difficult when you get to this point where things are going so well is they go so well for so long that it's like you almost forget that you have PANDAS. And then when you start to regress a little bit or something's happening and we need a dose change or something, we might wait a little too long to call the doctor to say like, hey, I think we might need to change something. Oh, she's just being typical teenager. And I know my husband really struggles with that one. Like, I think she's healed so much, she forgets that she still struggles sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's one of the, I think that's the biggest challenge, that we have in terms of, getting people to understand like, yeah, she's amazing and great and everything's going wonderful, but there are still going to be days that she's not feeling her best or, things aren't moving forward as fast as we'd like. What do you think?
Yeah. Because I'm still like healing on my energy and stuff, and
Mhm.
once I do something, I'm exhausted the next few days.
Mhm.
And I don't want to get up, I don't want to do anything. All I want to do is just sit on my phone and relax.
Mhm.
And I'm generally like so like drained that like I yawn all the time because I'm so like exhausted and tired. And I don't even know how every day I stay up till 11 o'clock, maybe even 12.
That's your age. That's
That's
because
my
your age.
bedtime. That is no, but it's been like that for years. And it's just like I can't go to bed earlier because then I wake up in the middle of the night. So I'm stuck at this I have like this routine, I guess. I kind of wake up late, go to bed late. That works for me, but it's just very difficult to, do things and then not be tired at the end of the day and for a few days after that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand that. Like I'll be sitting on the couch and I don't want to get up. I don't want to do anything. And my dad will get upset because he's like, you were doing this the other day, you can do it now, like you can go do it, you know. But he doesn't, sometimes he doesn't understand like or process that like I can't because I generally just don't feel good right now.
Well, tell us about what you love the most, or both of you guys, tell us what you love the most about homeopathy and what you found the most challenging.
I think, I don't know if this is like a weird thing to say or if like this is a stupid response, but how much it's healed me is my like what I love the most about it. Just because I was generally like I was so over it. And I think that if I didn't, if homeopathy didn't save me, that I wouldn't be here today just because of how like chaotic my life was. I think I could have done something stupid that would have, you know, ended it. And I think that I could have become very suicidal from like how many times that I've had like these bad experiences in the hospital where they tell me I'm insane. They've literally put me in psychosis by medication and then acted like I was the crazy person. And they tied me down, like, you know, when they tie someone who's like going crazy
Their strengths.
with their stance, they've tied me down. Like this guy literally has poked me thousands of times trying to get an IV in, and then he blamed me for it. And it's just like I've had all of these terrible experiences, and I felt like no one believed me. And I think that if I did not have what I have now, I honestly wouldn't be here today.
Well, I'm so glad you are. I
Me too.
appreciate I appreciate the honesty with that. And I mean, did you ever actually have those types of thoughts, or you just know that you feel like it was heading in that direction?
I think I did
Yeah.
at the beginning because like I didn't understand what was going on, and it like no one would believe me. And I was just like, well, why am I even alive? Like I should have just died then when I had my grandma's seizure and I wasn't breathing. But
Yeah.
I think over time I was like, well, I have a reason I didn't want to die. It was, you know, my dogs. They really like brought me to reality. I
Mhm.
think when it comes to that type of stuff, but I do think that I could have really gone down if anything wasn't fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about the most challenging thing about homeopathy?
Waiting,
Waiting for it to work.
waiting for it to work is very like terrible. Not terrible, but like it's really anxious. It makes you very anxious. And definitely did make me very anxious just because I was anxious for everything just to be over with. And
Yeah.
obviously that's not how it works. You don't just take the remedy and your life's magically back. I know that now. But like it was just very like anxiety inducing just because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually gonna have my life back. And now I do, and honestly, I'm so happy.
Yeah, she's gotten to a point where she gets to go with friends and, you know, hang out without mom, because mom has traveled along with Maddie for the past 4 years and everything that she's done, basically. I've tried very much to keep her involved, but I've always had to be the tag along.
Mhm.
So now we finally got to a place where she's able to go, you know, with certain friends and hang out and do stuff that teenagers do. And that was the most challenging thing, I guess, is waiting for it to work. I do feel that the more we've gotten, the further we've gotten in our healing journey, that the dosage changes work faster. Like when we
Mhm.
change, like we just, she had a few days this past week where she was just blah and down and kind of just chilling on the couch and unresponsive to my husband when he wants her to do things. And, you know, and then, you know, I talked to Dr. Bartel because we thought possibly a change was going to have to come. So we went from like 3 drops to 1/8 of a teaspoon. And like overnight, she was just like back to her happy-go-lucky, want to talk and hang out Maddie self, you know?
Mhm.
So how quick that I feel the changes have been fast. Like the reactions have been faster, the more healed that she is. The best thing is that I tell everybody when you see my posts on Facebook that it's, you know, she's 1,000 times better. It's a miracle. Nothing worked prior to it. The only regret I have is that we didn't do it sooner. I do, like I mentioned, I have an older son who struggles with a lot of the same things, who I truly believe also is PANDAS. And he was at his point where I had tried homeopathy with him. He didn't want to put in the time in the patience it takes for it to work and to find the right remedy. So he chose in his journey not to go that route, but I am hoping that one day he'll kind of move forward and want to try it again. Because I feel that it, I think we were so bad in our journey, and I'm so grateful that we found a remedy that worked right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't imagine the struggle well, I can, because I have gone through it with my son, where the remedy doesn't work and you have to change and you have to keep changing and you have a different whatever. And, so I can see how challenging it is. I just want to encourage parents not to give up. Like, I would have never stopped with my son had he not been of an adult age and make that decision by himself to do that. But just to have faith and trust your provider that the process of the remedy and your provider knows what they're doing, and to just keep moving forward. Like you said, patience is the key, and it didn't heal overnight, and but it healed enough every time we did something that it was moving forward, and I could see that it was going to be okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would love to hear a little bit more about what life is like for you guys now. You've alluded to that. Like, what are some of your favorite wins, things that you're doing now that if you had been told 4 or 5 years ago that you were going to be doing this, that you would have been like, no way. Aside from, like, I don't know, maybe getting a driver's license because you
I was
can't
just gonna
have seizures, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very excited. The horses, I never thought in a million years that I would even be able to go and see horses, go help groom and take care of horses. But here and I'm so excited about that. Like, that's something I'm very excited to do, especially because these horses aren't just, the horses you buy.
Mm-hmm.
They have traumatic past. They were rescues and they need some love. And I'm so excited to be able to give them the love that they need and to help take care of them and be there for them.
And there was one point in our journey when we first started homeopathy where Maddie couldn't really even go outside. If it was over like 70 degrees outside, she had to stay in the house because she couldn't regulate her temperature and she would have seizures.
Or pass out.
Yeah, or pass out. And she was always hot and temperature was an issue. And so even being able to just go outside and do stuff is amazing, right?
Yeah.
And to go camping, we go camping out in the desert, right? A lot. And she rides her quad and what else?
Well, the fact that you're able to go and work with rescue traumatized horses says a lot, right? Like, horses are sensitive animals, which is one reason they're used in therapy too, right? So, but when they have themselves need therapy, they need the right people with them, and they need somebody who is going to be able to be like grounded and present, and calm. And that is not how you were describing yourself early on. That's for sure.
Yeah. I think also if I weren't so advanced in where I am right now, I wouldn't even be with my dog Luca because he has also been abused before he came to us, and he is not a fan of kids and stuff. We had a little kid that used to come around a lot in our life. He was very much all over the place, kind of where I was a couple years back, and he did not like him. And it shows me that I've gone so far because my dog would not like me if I weren't where I am today, because I would be too crazy for him, and he's calm. He doesn't like to be that crazy. I mean, he is crazy, but he doesn't like the craziness around him. He likes to be the crazy.
Yeah, Maddie had extreme ADHD symptoms and very driven by impulse. She opened the door once while we were driving down the road, and something just told her hey, I should open the door, and thank God she didn't jump out, but we've gone through really extreme things, huh, Maddie? So I probably haven't talked a lot about what symptoms we've had. Every single symptom's probably on the PANDAS checklist. She experienced to a severe degree.
Yeah.
Oh, intrusive thoughts. That's another symptom I was having. Yeah. I forgot about
And
that.
not anymore though, right?
Yeah.
No, not much.
I think I have the normal like amount.
Right, because we all have them.
Yeah, we all have
them.
intrusive thoughts, but I think what I had before was like to an extent where I would just do it.
Mhm.
Like I would just be like, oh, let's open this car door while we're driving down the highway.
So we've all had that thought. It's whether we act on it and like how intense it is. Yep.
Danielle, I'm curious from you about how life is now, but more specifically, earlier you're talking about how you're a researcher and you love researcher. And as a mom who learned to love research through doing panicked PANS research, and then getting to a place where you get to shift into researching for fun and researching other things other than PANS. Tell us about some of the little things in your life that have changed since things have improved.
Yeah, well, I've been doing a lot of research on just the functional world and different modalities that can kind of go along to help with like homeopathy. And so I just research anything that can, enhance it, because I do think that I know that a lot of people, we love homeopathy, but it does take a long time. And sometimes you need something that's going to help you through, a certain point of time while you're healing, so there can be things that you can add in that can help, that can be, beneficial. So I've been doing like a lot of research on that. I did get a master's degree during this time that it was going on.
Wow.
And unfortunately I was working on a doctorate degree, but I ended up, when Maddie got severe, that I had to stop doing that. But then it was actually okay, because I realized that's not where I wanted my life to go, that I wanted to start focusing more on learning more about, healing and holistic integration of, the mind, the body. I've been doing a lot of research on mental health and how it's all connected. And so those are like the kind of things that I live to learn about to help, families improve. And I know sometimes it's hard to get parents to embrace or even just see how much homeopathy can help. But sometimes you can get them to try other things that can eventually lead them to that. You know what I'm saying? So like I may be able to say like, hey, Maddie and I tried, I don't know, red light therapy, and we found that this worked amazing for such and such and such, but homeopathy really helped us do what, so like when they start to see that little modalities bring little changes, then you can bring them to more healing. So that's kind of like what I want to do with my life. Start moving people towards healing in whatever way works for them. Kids like Maddie and families like ours. People aren't always going to embrace homeopathy. People won't embrace, people will embrace like the antibiotics that don't work, but if I can do anything that can bring them closer to at least looking into it and seeing how the holistic healing has helped us, that's kind of where I want my life to go. So I've been doing a lot of research on that kind of stuff. So, I do have to kind of realize that sometimes I kind of think, well, as soon as I start to see weird things, I'll be like, oh, we got to give you your dose of your remedy.
Yes.
And Maddie gets so mad at me. She'll be like, Mom, the remedy doesn't fix everything. And I'll be like, yes, it does.
That is something.
So she gets mad at me sometimes when I do that. But
like I literally could just be having a bad day, and she's like, time for remedy. Time for remedy.
Yeah.
Like I just have a bad day.
That's, I think, where my trauma comes in,
I was about to say, I feel like I'm listening to Avery and I talk right now.
Yeah.
This is exactly, and especially that shift, that space where we have to shift, because it really does feel like homeopathy can fix everything. But then there's these beautiful, amazing parts of our children that we don't want to change. And that's what I love about homeopathy, is homeopathy doesn't change those things. But still, I think there's this weird mix that us moms go through with, dancing with our own PTSD and, allowing our kids to be who they truly are.
Yeah. And I love that you just spoke up and said that, Maddie, because the truth is like homeopathy is not going to make you not have a bad day. You can just have a bad day. If you can bounce back on your own, you're good. If you can't bounce back, then you probably need a dose. But yeah, we all just have bad days. And it's in that just goes to show how far you've come, that one, you're just having a bad day, and two, that you can speak up and say, dude, it's just a bad day. Like back off.
There's two things I would like to share with parents, though, that I think about a lot. One, I think realizing that at some point there's going to be grief in your journey.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we missed so much of Madison's childhood because we were dealing with all of the stuff that was going on. And I feel I have worked through my own feelings of sadness and grief at missing that. And, you know, coulda, woulda, shoulda, all the things that I should have done, that maybe I could have done differently. So that's always been like something in the back of my mind. And, you know, being able to move on and be happy and enjoying the moment that we're in, even though we missed out on, you know, so much, like being able to embrace where we are now and not focus so much on where we used to be. Because that was kind of a difficult thing for me, like just to imagine like how things would have been differently had we not had Pans or Pandas. When I see the little glimmers of, you know, when she laughs, God, I love her laugh. And there were so many years that we had no laughter in our life, you know. And so to not dwell on the fact that I missed all those times that we didn't have laughter, but to embrace the fact that we have laughter and joy in our life now. And I literally call it joy. Like we did not feel joy in our life up until homeopathy and healing. And it didn't come right away. Like I said, it was a process. We weren't joyful every day when we first started, but we're definitely joyful every day now, right? In terms of our life, not in terms of like I'm having a bad day, but you know what I mean? Like there is joy in our life that we definitely didn't have before.
Yeah.
And now I might have lost my second thought.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question that I know everybody is going to be dying to hear the answer to, and hopefully the thought will come back to you. So you've shared that when you started homeopathy, you were on 8 different medications, dozens of supplements. So 2 questions. How many medications or supplements are you on now? That's the first one.
I'm on, I think, 3 medications.
Mhm.
I take a morning medication, which is for my anxiety.
Mhm.
That necessarily I probably wouldn't have to take, but I just think that it helps me and
You're just not ready
my
to stop
healing.
yet.
I think it helps my healing.
Mhm.
I don't think it would, you know, be different. I think it could be different for everyone else.
Mhm.
I think someone else could be doing homeopathy and they wouldn't be needing it, but it's just what I am. I need it. I also take a night medication that, you know, helps me go to sleep at night. Well, I take 2 night medications that help me go to sleep at night. I take Benadryl because I have mast cell, so it also helps with my allergies and stuff.
Mhm.
But it also helps me go to sleep. And then I also have, I don't know what clonidine. Then I take clonidine and then fluoxetine in the morning.
Yeah,
So
that's
just
the
the 3.
But she was on 8. And I do want to say that the 3 that she still takes, she has calmed down in dosage. So she was taking twice the amount of the anxiety medication
Mhm.
in the beginning. So she went from 80 to 40 milligrams, which is awesome.
Mhm.
And we've been talking about even reducing that, you know, down further. And yeah, and the clonidine, she's like 3, like half of the dose of that. So like even though she still has to take some medicines, she takes half of what she had to, as you know, before, to maintain. So yeah, those are definitely, and we
And
see
I'm not
the
hearing
occasional
seizure. I'm not hearing seizure
no
medications.
seizure
No
medication, no seizure medications.
And when was the last time you had a seizure?
2.5 years ago.
2.5
Like about
years,
2.5 years
yeah.
ago. Oh, and we will share a win. We actually did have to go to the ER on last Monday.
Not last.
2 Mondays, 2 Mondays, last Monday, one of these Mondays. And because she was in extreme pain.
I had a kidney stone.
Yeah, so she she passed out a couple of times out of pain, but she thought she might have a seizure,
And I didn't.
and she didn't. She was
Awesome.
able to be like, we were able to be like, you're okay, everything's fine. You know, a lot of her stuff came from her body being hyper you know, sensory overload and triggered. And it took us a long time to make the connection between the seizures and the stimulation of the brain and the nervous system and all of that. And we put all that together with no help from the doctors, you know, and being able to address those. So we try to do things like, you know, we got the like jumping up and do things to help with your nervous system. We kind of try to do that, you know, to help our nervous. But I do remember what I wanted to say. I wanted to tell moms to not let their health be put on the back burner and not treated or taking care of yourself during that time, because by the time we came out of Madison's journey, my body was in a huge state of fight or flight, that I was completely amped up like all the time. I didn't know how to relax. I was constantly like in the like, okay, what's gonna happen next? Like I could not relax at all. My And so basically, like, I put everything that had to do with me on the back burner because I was always trying to help Madison. And I was basically like in metabolic chaos by the time I came out of it. Like, my blood sugar was out of control. My blood pressure was out of control. My anxiety was crazy. And like everything that I was trying to avoid in her, I had taken on myself. So I just want to let make sure that moms know that, like, you can't, like they always say, pour from an empty cup. Like, you need to fill your cup before you can help your family and your child. And I wish that I had taken more time for myself during our journey, even though I was living in this like state of chaos all the time. I needed to take a little of that chaos for me. So just to remember that it is overwhelming and there's so much going on, and you need to make the time, because if God forbid something happens to you, who's going to be there for your family later on. So that's a huge lesson that I've learned through this whole thing, was not to put my own health on the back burner.
Yeah.
I love it. What about any other advice you would offer to families that are really early on in their PANDAS journey?
Try to be understanding, just because you never know what's really going in the person who has PANDAS mind. Like, because sometimes they don't even know, you don't really even know what's going on in your mind, but it's just a very stressful and scary thing that we're going through, and we can't even control a lot of what we're doing, and we need a lot of understanding and help. And I know that can be, very difficult for some people to understand, but even if you don't understand it, you need to probably just try to have, so just try to support them, even if you don't understand what you're trying to understand.
Right.
I think support is the biggest thing. The person needs a lot of support. And I know I wouldn't have gotten where I am without the support I had from my family at all. Doesn't matter who you are, your friends, your family, you just need that type of support, because that pushes you to fight even more.
Yeah.
How about you, Danielle? Any other advice for brand new PANDAS families?
I would just say,
Sorry, go ahead. I was just gonna say, and also don't give up.
yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, don't give up, and don't take no for an answer, or it's all in your head. If you feel that it's there's more going on, then there's more going on. So trust your gut. Definitely, like I said, if you're on the fence about homeopathy, dive right in. It's scary, but it's worth it. That's the biggest regret I have, is that I didn't do it sooner. I could have maybe saved us a year, or had I known even sooner, 3 years, 4 years, so definitely trust your gut. Listen to your practitioner if you are doing homeopathy, because they do know what they're doing, and it might not seem like it at the time, but they're doing what's best for you and your child. And I guess have faith. Never give up. Never give up. Always have hope, even though it's you might not
You might feel hopeless, but just
you might
have
feel
hope.
hopeless, but have hope that eventually it's going to turn around. I don't know. Anything else?
I don't know. I don't have any other advice.
These might cross over a little bit, but
Yeah.
any advice to anybody considering homeopathy, or kind of the moms that are trudging through the very beginning of the homeopathy healing journey?
If you're considering it, do it. Because if we didn't do it, I like I said, I probably wouldn't be here. God knows how our life would have turned out if we didn't do what homeopathy. And honestly, homeopathy, it might have took a little bit to kickstart, but it's life-changing. It changes your perspective on everything, like the healthcare world, the medications that you're eating, the food that you're eating, everything. It changes everything that you're seeing in life. And honestly, I think it's a very beautiful way of seeing life now, because I feel like I see life for what it really is. I see it for all the glory and all of the, idiotic things that happen. But I think that it changed my perspective on life, and I think that for the better. I think it changed me for the better, to be honest. Just go for it. And if you're in the early stages, don't give up. Don't let anyone tell you to stop doing it or that it's not going to work. And just be patient, and your patience will pay off.
I always say patience and persistence, and that's what I'm hearing from you guys.
Exactly. And one interesting thing I want to say, because I know we don't do labs and stuff through homeopathy, but when, like, remember I mentioned that my husband saw the labs and was like, oh, this is a problem. Well, we had redone our labs probably 6 or 7 months after we had started homeopathy, and you could already see the changes in the labs. The staff had already gone back to normal, or the strep had already gone back to normal. Everything was coming down. And so you could see that it was working in the numbers. And so I think that was like, for somebody who's not a believer, that really did help my husband to believe in the process. So you can see like the clinical, not just the clinical correlation, but also the laboratory correlation and stuff with it. And then people who say, like, you know, if you're on the fence about homeopathy, you already know that that's what you need to do. You know, it's like you already have it in the back of your mind. It's like nagging you, but just trust in yourself and believe that you'll make the right decision. Because that's what I've learned over this journey, is that I may have tried to seek information in other places where I should have trusted my judgment a little sooner. You know, I didn't need people to tell me this was the right thing to do. Like, I knew somewhere in my heart and my soul that this is what I needed to do, and I should have trusted that a lot sooner.
Yeah. Maddie, whenever we have young adults join us as guest hosts, oftentimes we've got younger children, sometimes we have teenagers, we have other adults that listen to these episodes. So if anybody is listening to this episode who is struggling with PANS right now, what advice would you offer them?
I'm gonna say something that I already just said. Never give up, because you don't know how many times that I wanted to give up, and I'm so grateful that I didn't. You might have to do things that make you feel weird, uncomfortable, and, you know, like a child, and it sucks. But in the long run, you get better. Like, before I started homeopathy, I had to wear pull-ups, which was the most embarrassing, uncomfortable thing that I've literally ever done. That's something I am still embarrassed about till this day, but I know that I'm not the only person who has struggled with stuff like this. And I
Absolutely.
want people to understand that, like, yes, it sucks, but I want to be able to help people in a way that shows them that it's not something they should be embarrassed about, and it's something that they should honestly be proud about because of how far that they're coming along.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing you say too is something I always say is like, stick with this. This won't last forever.
Yes.
Don't give up. It won't last forever.
I honestly kind of want to, like, become like kind of like an influencer and have like a YouTube channel
Mhm.
and just help people who have gone through PANDAS or anything of the sorts of health problems, anything. I want them to, like, understand that, like, everything will get better and that it's not the end of the world. Just because I hear about all of the kids who end up taking their lives because of PANDAS,
Mhm.
and it honestly makes me so sad because, you know, they're not getting the help that they need, or that they just give up. And it makes me even sadder that I thought about having that, doing it, you know?
Yeah.
I've thought about, like, that would be me if I wasn't where I am today. That kid could have been me. And that's a very, like, hard thought to think. And it really sucks to.
Well, if you saw Jody's face, I don't know if you saw it, but you got your first subscriber and follower, like the
I was
reaction she had.
just about to say, Maddie, welcome to your influencer career. And I hope that you are so proud of yourself, and you coming and being transparent and sharing everything, even the things that embarrass you a whole lot. What an amazing thing to influence people
Mhm.
in the direction of, like, so you're starting right now, you're influencing. So welcome to your influencer career. It has begun. And it really, it's such a special thing to have young adults join us and be brave and just do what it takes to help other families, because that's what you're doing by joining us today. So I think it's amazing, and I really do hope that you're proud of yourself, because I know we all feel really, really proud of you for being so brave.
Yeah.
I am pretty proud of myself. I feel like I've come so far. And that's another reason why I'm going to become a therapist is because even though I want to become an influencer who can help people that way, but I want to also be a person who can help a person in another way as well.
Mhm.
And I feel like I don't think I could become a doctor or anything like that or a vet. Like I wanted to become a vet growing up, but like I just can't handle that. And I feel like I'd get really depressed because, all the animals and
Yeah.
it's very depressing job. So when my cousin Carly, who I love very dearly with all my heart, she told me she's becoming a therapist. She's in school for it right now. And she was like, you would be a really good therapist. You're a good listener. You you know how to guide people in the right direction. And honestly, it was her that made me like realize that this could be like the best career choice for me
Mhm.
because I was actually really struggling on what I wanted to become in the future because I had
Mhm.
no clue. I had no clue what I wanted to be in the future.
Yeah.
I thought I had it all planned out, and then, everything goes, and then it doesn't end up how we plan, and that's okay. But always have that person that tells you or lets you know that idea, and then it just sparks.
Yeah.
Why don't you share a little bit about how you kind of went from being bullied now to realize that? Oh, bullying, bullying.
Maddie went through some times during her hardest struggle with pans and pandas that she was really bullied.
It wasn't, I don't, yeah, it was bullying, but it wasn't because of anything with pandas, but it was just bullying in general. Obviously, they don't know what's going on in your home life, but obviously bullying is bad. Do not bully.
Right.
I think that I used to run into a lot of bullies and just become friends with them and then let them push me around and be mean to me and cause all these problems for me. And I wouldn't stop them. I just let them walk all over me. And I think another thing that homeopathy has really helped me with is standing up for myself. I know how to like pick out a person and be like, well, they're not treating me right. They don't deserve to be friends with me. Why should I be friends with you if you're gonna treat me like this? I've learned I think homeopathy has really helped me learn, a lot of things and just my experiences with life honestly have helped me a lot. I feel like I've matured a lot. I'm maybe at a younger age where I understand a lot of things that some people might not even understand in their 20s.
Mhm.
Um,
Or 30s or
or 30s,
40s
yeah.
or 70s.
But I think that just like being able to have all of these experiences not only have made me a better person in the long run, but have made me more, aware of
Yeah.
everything. And I just want to say, don't let anyone push you around, walk all over you, or put you down because you're
Yeah.
beautiful and you're amazing.
Well, on that note, I'm just going to say, Maddie, where were you when I was your age? I wish that you had already existed to say all of these things because I needed to hear these things when I was your age. It took me till my mid 30s before I was willing to share even the littlest bit of the things that I struggled with publicly and to share the things that happened to me that I was embarrassed about. And you're here, you don't even have your driver's license yet. And you're like, making this impact for so many people. Like truly, it would have been so helpful for me to have heard you say exactly what you just said when I was your age. So thank you, both of you, for your
Thank you for having
vulnerability.
us.
Thank you so
And
much.
I'm so grateful that you are willing to come and share your experience with us. I can't wait to see where you get to in your full healing journey because I know you're not all the way there. You are substantially closer to the finish line. I am hopeful for you that someday you'll come back and you'll be like, "Yep, all those medications are gone. I'm sleeping great. My anxiety is good, other than like the blips here and there, and like I know what's me and what's a symptom, and there's like basically rarely having any symptoms." And it's also, if that's not part of your journey and medication is going to help you for the rest of your life, that's also great. I just can't wait to see the things that you're going to do because, I mean, you're already doing pretty big, impactful things already.
I just want to say I feel very like honored to come out here and tell you guys my story because, you know, that's something I think I've wanted to do for a while
Mhm.
and let people know that they're not alone in what they're going through and that there's so many other people who know exactly what they're going through and that, we're all together as, kind of not like kind of like a family. We're all
Mhm.
together in this and you're not alone. I just want everyone to know that they're not alone because I remember the whole time I think I had a lot of my problems.
Mhm.
I thought that I was really alone
Yeah.
and that no one understood. So I think having these people and knowing that there's more people out there who have the same thing that I do is such a game changer because I know that I'm not alone now and that I am not going through these things alone and that people have gone through these things and that they're going through these things, but also that things are going to be okay. And this was a big, I think, changer for me because people were having like breakthroughs. And I was like, well, I'm going to have a breakthrough like that. Everything's going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. And that was a big game changer for me. So I'm so happy that I can come up here and do the same thing.
Yeah. I love what you said that we are kind of like family. And because I always say your families are my family. Like you're right. Like the Pans family is all of us and everybody who's been touched by it. So thank you for being here and stepping up to do what other people have helped you with. And I can't wait to see all of the people who are influenced by you for the better, who then come and follow in your shoes and step up to say, yes, just like Maddie said, it can get better.
Yes, when Maddie starts her YouTube channel, we'll let you know.
Okay. Yep. Let us know. Let us
I
know and
technically
we'll.
do have one. I do have one. I haven't posted in a long time. I have like one video on it.
When you're ready, let us know. We will make sure our audience is aware. And I want to see a picture of your first car.
Of course. I was
All
sending
right.
you a picture. Yeah.
All
All right,
right.
guys. Take
Thank
care.
you,
Thank you
ladies.
so much for having us.
Bye.
Bye.
We hope you found this episode helpful, hopeful, and inspiring. We try to get a new episode out every week. You can make sure you don't miss any by following us on Spotify or subscribing to our channel on YouTube. If you want to connect with us more, join our Facebook group, Homeopathy for Pans and Pandas, where we have exclusive weekly videos and answer your questions about, you guessed it, homeopathy for pans and pandas throughout the week. If you are already a member, give us a shout out and let us know what you thought about this episode. If you aren't on Facebook and would like to reach us, you can email us at podcast@resiliencenaturopathic.com. Until next time, take care and remember, this won't be forever.